In the wake of the shooting at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, the debate over increasing gun control has been revived. Tragedies involving firearms such as these always raise the questions about people's rights to buy and own guns and what types of guns they should be able to own. But we must be careful in these delicate situations not to overreact and violate the Second Amendment and our right to bear arms. President Barack Obama has proposed 23 new laws that will make it harder for citizens to buy guns and restrict what type of guns that we will be able to own. All of these laws are not necessary, however, to fix the problem with gun violence in our country. But some of his ideas are reasonable and probably should be implemented. Therefore, a compromise will have to be reached between the extremes of no gun control at all and complete control to help reduce the problem of gun violence in America. And there is definitely a problem with gun violence in the United States. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, there are about 17,000 homicides each year in the United States, and about 2/3, or 11,000 of these, are committed using a firearm. The United Nations Office of Drug and Crime reports that the murder rate in the United States is 5 times higher than that of other developed countries. Also, according to the CDC, there is approximately 17,000 suicides committed each year with a firearm, which is about half of all the suicides in the country. Obviously, something needs to be done about the amount of violence in our country. According to the New York Times, President Barack Obama's new proposal includes reinstating and strengthening the assault weapons ban that was in place from 1994 but expired in 2004. It would also prohibit ammunition magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, which is most handgun magazines, such as this one, that hold 15 rounds, and I believe this to be unconstitutional and not necessary to solve the problem. The problem is who has the guns, and the solution is to keep the guns out of the people's hands that don't need to have them, such as people with criminal backgrounds and mental health problems that would lead them to committing a serious crime. The New York Times also reports that included in Obama's proposal are laws that would require universal background checks and would keep guns out of the hands of people with mental health issues that could cause them to do something bad. These are reasonable and good ideas that could help cut down on the gun violence in our country. Another really helpful step that could be implemented would be to reduce the amount of guns that are obtained through the black market and other illegal sources. According to a survey done on prison inmates by the U.S. Department of Justice, most of the inmates said that they got their guns from illegal sources such as the black market. 80% of them did not buy them from a retail store that would require them to have a background check done. So it was fairly easy for them to get a weapon. We can visualize the benefits of implementing laws that prevent people that shouldn't have firearms from buying them by realizing that if we kept the guns out of these people's hands, it would reduce the amount of gun violence in our country. If we kept guns out of their hands who abuse their rights and from the people that are very capable of doing bad things, the violence would decrease, and it would not be necessary to limit the types of guns that we have just to keep them away from the people that shouldn't have them. In conclusion, the real problem with gun violence comes from letting the wrong people have access to guns. Therefore, restricting the wrong people from getting them and not limiting the weapons themselves would cut down on the violence in our country. Since President Barack Obama's new proposal was recently rejected by the Senate, I'm hopeful that they will make a reasonable compromise and that it will lead to less violence in our country.